from Los Angeles yesterday for this forum. He's been very active in civil community work, social work as executive director of Koreatown Young Community Center for
them a very useful advice to all of us. So when you organize your community in your area or your profession, these are something that maybe you should think about.
Disparities that affect our community, you can be your own advocate. You can go to your own doctor and ask, have you tested me for this? Should I be worried about this? Can I get further evaluation for this? So some of the health disparities that I view as challenges that our community faces.
And every level, and I would say particularly at the city level and here at the state level, is a place where more people from our background, from our Asian American community, from communities of color, should be thinking about how to get involved.
I think there's something to be said about, a lot of people say everyone's just focusing on race so much and too much conversation about it, but I don't think people understand how important that kind of representation is, that you need someone to go first. You need someone to do it first. You need someone to put themselves out there and at least try. And that's always been my philosophy, and I've had the great fortune of being raised with this sort of view of white privilege, because I was raised by white people with the view that, like, yeah, you can do whatever you want except be president of the United States because you weren't born here, and maybe we can have like a Supreme Court thing and then we can change that in a couple of years. But I think that I take very seriously this idea that I'm representing a much larger group than just the 40,000 people that I represent in Framingham. It is a big responsibility.
Now, what are some small steps that we could take to raise education and awareness for our own issues that are going on?
First of all, it's knowing who's your elected official, right? If you don't know who you're represented by, it's really difficult to have a grasp of what's going on, what kind of bills they support, what kind of policy direction that they're going in. So I think first of all, find out who your elected officials are, whether it's your city councilors, your state representative, your mayor, your federal congressmen, and your senators, and then figure out what laws are out there. There are resources out there that really will allow you to see what the issues are, what's the pulse is like. And I understand it's really difficult. First of all, if you don't understand the language and there's not a high English comprehension level, then that's going to be more difficult. It's more of rallying the other young people together, right? And it's getting them into a room to, guys, we need to do something. We can't wait for other people to pave the way for us. We can't wait for other people to speak for us. But instead, we have to come together and create a unified voice.
Yeah, I think kind of to your point, I think what I'm curious about to understand and would like to see more are opportunities for like candid, multi-generational conversation about like opportunities and challenges that we experience. So for instance, I'm a young person, I'm a millennial, and I have very specific policy concerns, and I'm sure that they differ from my parents and my grandparents, and so I would like to understand like what those different issues are, the priority issues that different generations face, and think tactically about like getting those different generations together. We could leverage this group, we could leverage different cultural centers that universities have, because a lot of young people are talking about politics. A lot of young people really care. It's just how do we get that group of like young people in universities who are really rallying behind politics and then like get them into this room? How do we understand, how do we create that conversation between one another? I think that's one thing that we could do and leverage already like systems and processes that are in place. But I think that kind of gets to your point, right? Like thinking tactically and strategically, like what are those solutions? We talk about like we need to think and be curious, but like let's bring them together. We need to think about programming.
I think that we as a community, whether it be the Korean-American community or the larger Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander community, we need to acknowledge our internal biases. I'm just struck by hearing Representative Robinson talk about the adoptees and the gentleman who shared about your multiracial background. And our communities do have some biases about perhaps adoptees or being of a multiracial ethnic parentage rather than quote pure. And I think this may be a bit controversial, but I think we have to acknowledge that for us to actually have the open dialogue that this question I think was getting at, which is why I think I agree with what the previous comment was, that having that very honest conversation about, many of us don't feel like that's our life's path, but we still have to be political. And that's what I would say is the take home that I'm getting from all of this, and hopefully everyone else does too. You can't ignore being political because you're not in politics. You'll pay dearly for it, and this is hopefully what will be the start of each one of us feeling like how we cannot ever give up our right to vote, even if we feel uninformed. And then like Kay said, then get curious and find out how you should get informed. And make sure you drop your vote in the ballot box and never give that up.
Yeah, actually 2 days a week I work in Framingham. I work out of Wellesley,
So I'm from northeastern Pennsylvania, so we're even like a little, even fewer of us out there in the universe.
That's funny.
So it was, my parents were part of a support group that was, we realize now was really for the parents more than for the kids, but that was our only chance to like see other people who looked like us, and it was kind of crazy. But here I imagine it's actually crazier just because people have such expectations.
Good job. President Pay.
That's it. I can't even.
You already know. Already understand.
No, it's like it never even occurred to me that I was Asian until I got to Massachusetts.
Yeah, no.
It was like, oh, I don't know how to use chopsticks. Like everybody thinks I'm nuts. I learned how to use chopsticks at age 21 from a bunch of white boys. Like it's not even remotely close.
Yeah,
to,
no, it's so true.
Do you have siblings or?
Yeah, older. They're from my adopted parents, they're not biological.
Okay.
Actually, I'm going down. We got to rush out of here. So I just want to say a few
No,
words. Going down to Maryland to speak with adopted parents, because there's different organizations I'm involved with. And so I'm excited that I was able to come here. I can talk about some of the things that meeting you and representation. That's a big part of the conversation. Kids, because they always have concern about presentation themselves.
Our family's hilarious.
When you said you adopted black children, oh, that.
And we're just like,
I said to my friend, you were like, docking me every day. I was like, that just made me so happy. That made my night.
no, because I'm
Oh my
there.
God.
I'm there in the drugstore being like, okay, I gotta figure out this hair thing. Like, what are we doing? How am I oiling my hair? Like, I gotta not screw this up because it's the same. Like, I always joke that Asian kids should come with like a little label that says like, "Do not feed milk." Other than I like did not understand lactose intolerance. Because I was eating at college, everyone's like, "You still drink milk?" Seriously? Like, I don't want my mother would drink 3 glasses a day for like ever. So it's and like all these, every time I come to one of these things, I learn something new. I was like, oh, I should go get tested for hepatitis apparently. And also, I'm definitely BMI obese. So like, we got a whole next step of everything there. But it's there's so much we don't know, right? There's so. Did you read Nicole Chung's book?
No, I have not yet. I've been told about it.
But what's crazy about it now is just the realization and learning about it that we all almost certainly have siblings, right? Like, and that I've always.
It's so important that you brought that comment up, but just specifically for you, if you are interested in connecting, there is a possible Korean-Adoptees. In fact,
Oh, I'm definitely.
are you really?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
so
why. That's actually why I'm here with an email I got. After them, I was like, oh, I'm definitely gonna come.
yeah.
And so I think when I say adoptees, people will just categorize questions into that, but that was more general for Asian.
Right. No, absolutely. I think obviously I'm not shy about it, but I think our community does have a lot of internal biases and discrimination.
Very true. Yes.
And the fact that there were a lot of people who were open about it tonight is so important. I grew up in a very conservative, very upbringing, and so I feel like that was a good and a bad thing. And when I was able to,
It's a video.
I think it's a video. Once I was able to get on my own feet and go to college and kind of develop my own political views, I recognized that there was so much more than what I experienced growing up. And so I think it's important and also starting. It's very nice that that's happening. Consul General's sort of official and this can't be the only one. So yeah, so let's make sure you stay connected. Also, feel free to connect.
So that was fun. Thank you. Thank you. So hopefully from this video, because this is just going to be the beginning of a very fun and adventurous weekend, planting some seeds over the next few months, couple years. They'll have grown and blossomed. So hopefully everyone watching this can just make mental notes and keep in mind all the things that are about to go down. I don't understand how that's never happened. I was like, screw it. Like, let's write our own. I got plenty of stories. Like, easily we can make this happen.
And when you
There's
see it
so
now,
many ways that you
this
can
red
make
dot
that
came